Caz, thank you for coming.
You're more than welcome. Thanks for having me.
I wish you were in my office every day, that's for sure. Before we start, Caz, because you're visually impaired,
Yes.
I just want to describe the audience to you so you know who's listening in as we chat today. So, audience is made up of Digital Minds members, supporters and coaches. I would say we have around 40 people, mixed gender, age group, let's see. Oh yeah, age group. Oh yeah, I think we range from the early 20s probably to the mid 40s. Let's go there. Yeah. I'm not incorporating myself in that. The majority of people, I would say, though, are mid 20s to early 30s. Everybody's very good looking, which is wonderful. Wearing a mixture of business attire and mainly smart casual. So and all looking very interested. So as everybody should when they're hearing from you, Caz. So Caz, thank you so much. You are the business manager for London Works.
I am indeed.
Which is the recruitment arm of the East London Business Alliance.
Yep.
I know some people in the audience have heard of ELBA. But for those who haven't, can you tell us a bit about it?
Of course, absolutely. So East London Business Alliance, we're 32 years old. We're a social regeneration charity based not far from Cross Harbour. We're quite unique in that as a member organisation made up of mainly financial services, insurance firms and also law firms. What we do is we design, we manage and we evaluate corporate partnerships. We're essentially in the CSR space, and we've been in that space for 32 years. We have 3 pillars. We have education. I would say if you lifted the lid on ELBA, we're only about 53 strong, but I suppose a third of the company would be working and supporting the voluntary sector. Another third would be supporting the education sector, so through school children, college leavers, graduates, but also the institutions that support them as well, which is colleges and universities. And the other third, which is my bag, is all about economic inclusion. So that's all about ensuring that our organisations that we work with give fair access to the opportunities that exist within their organisations.
And that's obviously really massively important, and that's the topic that we're here to talk about today. In terms of economic inclusion, London Works was set up as a recruitment company to take candidates who'd come through ELBA. Can you tell us a bit more about that? Why was that needed? Why does ELBA need its own recruitment arm?
Okay, so ELBA's been in the employment space since 2004. They've been doing employment for since 2004, and we're pretty successful at that. But I suppose as an organisation, when we were trying to approach our member organisations and I suppose provide them and introduce them to some of the amazing talent that we saw in East London, especially around the graduate piece who essentially and largely were from a diverse and ethnic background, we were shut down by their recruitment agencies. So we knew that they were great, we knew that they were talented, they were local, and also achieved academically really, really well. But of course, no one at that time was really talking that much about diversity and inclusion, and there weren't really that many meaningful conversations around social mobility as well. So of course we said, right, we're going to do it, and that's when I was brought in to set London Works up.
Oh, and how long has London Works been going for now?
So it's been since 2013. Again, you know, as a diversity recruitment agency, we champion social justice and race equality, especially around the recruitment agenda. And again, you know, if I think back to sort of when I came in, excuse me, educationally in East London, it was pretty poor, but it was getting better. If I think about the grads that sort of came into my offices with their shiny degree qualifications, firsts and 2-1s, but because unfortunately they didn't have the right UCAS points, so back in the day they weren't achieving at GCSE and A level, which then meant that whilst they were graduates and had really great results, they couldn't actually get onto a lot of the grad schemes. So, that bothered us a lot, given the space that we were in terms of our member community.
So just incidentally then, so you talk about really thriving in the uni world and coming into their own perhaps a bit later in the day, and the GCSE sixth form, that kind of A-level period, less delivering on their potential. What have you got any insight into why that could be?
Well, I mean, again, we're based in East London, very, very diverse community. We work in two of the poorest boroughs. A lot of our grads were first generation kids. So again, they didn't have the social capital. A lot of their parents were in low skilled work. And, they didn't have, a mum, a dad, an auntie, an uncle, in a corporate environment. And so therefore they lacked that social capital in order to kind of catapult them into the right career path, really. Yeah.
So they lack those advantages. We talk about diversity and inclusion. We use it just as a phrase. I'm sure everybody has their own. I'm going to ask our delegates in the panel later what it means to them. So I'm going to ask what it means to you. What does diversity and inclusion mean when we're talking?
So for me, diversity is obviously difference, isn't it? It's to avoid groupthink. It's variety. If I think about my son at 5 going into a sweet shop and there only being cola bottles and nothing else. I mean, can you imagine that?
I am imagining that. I quite like that.
But then, you go into, a traditional sweetie shop and you've got all of those, rows and shelves of lovely sweets of all different colours and tastes. And when you think about, actually, eating and experiencing all of that, I mean, how much happier, how much more brighter, how much more colourful is that for you? So for me, that's what diversity is for me. And I suppose inclusion is about accepting all of those differences, all of those different social backgrounds and social classes and social and cultures, and ensuring that, they're given the opportunity to thrive in our environments, that they're embraced, and that they feel that, that they can prosper and they can progress just like anybody else.
Yeah.
And so that they're not affected by any of those facets that they've got, no matter what they look like, what they sound like, who they prefer to kiss. It doesn't make any difference. It's all about what can you bring to the table. Don't invite me to a party, even with my stick, unless I can dance. Like, what's the point? It doesn't make any sense.
I've been out to dinner with you. I know you can dance. Yeah, absolutely. Now, EDII, we're really fortunate to work with you and to work with Callum and to see the support you give to your candidates, even once they've been placed with us. There's a lot goes on in the background with you guys to make sure that pathway is still very firmly supported and open. How does somebody find their way to ELBA London Works? How do they find you?
So we're really lucky. Again, I mean, as a traditional recruitment agency, we are a diversity recruitment agency, so therefore we operate just like any other commercial recruitment agency. But we're lucky that we're based in ELBA, who works, in the East London community. We have hundreds of community partners that we work with and all of their beneficiary bases. We're, again, very, very lucky that a very high percentage of our candidate base comes through referrals, which makes Callum and I really happy because we know we're doing a great job. Because, of course, when we were talking about recommendations with Helene earlier on, you're never going to recommend something unless you've had a good experience.
Yeah.
So ultimately, it's through, LinkedIn, it's through referrals, it's through the job boards, but most definitely we get a lot of our referrals through ELBA and the people that we place in our member companies and their referrals and the community partners and the support that we give to them and their beneficiaries.
And from what you hear from your candidates, how does the experience with you differ from an experience that they might have if they go to a generic recruitment company?
How can I even answer that? I think we're very patient. I mean, I've been in recruitment for 30 years, which means I started when I was 9. And I think it doesn't matter where I've been, and I've worked in some of the high street corporate agencies. I think quality of service is really, really important. communication is really, really important. And I think it's also about putting yourself in people's shoes and understanding their standpoint and their starting point. And none of us are the same. This is where we get the word diversity from. We're not the same. But I think what we're able to do is we're able to understand because we care, because we're passionate, because we understand the barriers that a lot of our candidate bases go through. And because of our experience, we're able to support them, hold their hands, navigate and motivate them to want to get through those barriers, over those hurdles, because we help them to recognise their potential and their talent.
Yeah.
So whilst the doors may be shut in other places, it never will be with us, because at London Works, not everyone can be a London Works candidate. Of course they can't. But ultimately, with the support of the ELBA membership and the ELBA community partnerships that we have, and the amazing projects and programs that we have at ELBA, we can actually support everyone.
Yeah, and I've seen firsthand how you do a lot of that. You talked earlier about traditional recruitment companies shutting down and putting obstacles up for candidates that came through ELBA. What other challenges has ELBA faced and London Works faced in its development, evolution?
So, I mean, in terms of challenges, I mean, we are a corporate, a community corporate organisation, so supporting them. So for us, it's about not othering some communities, and what we don't want to do is provide poverty porn to people. We don't want people to be looking at poverty from a Victorian lens. No, what we want is for people to understand that everybody, deserves a good standard of living. Everybody deserves a good career if they want it. So those are challenges. I mean, in terms of London Works, I mean, we're ready to talk about race. We're ready to talk about class. But obviously, these are massive conversations, and I know we're going to be hearing about unconscious bias a little bit later on. But these are massive conversations that not everybody is ready for. And also a lot of organisations will say, it will take us a while to get there. Mm-hmm. I suppose our challenge is convincing organisations that actually it's quite simple and there's stuff that can be done now, as long as they want to do that. Around the talent piece, it's about ensuring that they can see it. And for those in their organisations that can't, what are you going to do with those people if, as an organisation, you want to move forward? So, yeah, I mean, there's always going to be challenges around the race and class agenda. But I suppose, for us, I mean, we definitely believe that pushing through what we call the decade of discomfort, it's going to be worth it.
Yeah, I completely agree. So those who have pushed through and evolved with you, or you've helped them evolve, tell us about some of your success stories.
Wow. So at London Works, I mean, we have an amazing programme called the Student Associates, and it was really great to hear Nick talk about bringing people in from sort of school, college, uni. So our Student Associate programme is where we recognised, again, very early on when I got to London Works, that this isn't necessarily going to work that easily. So we went and we talked to some corporates, and they talked to us about their challenges around attracting diverse talent. And we talked to them about the education piece, the UCAS points, all of the preventions and the barriers and the hurdles. And so we devised Student Associates, which we have second year students who are still studying. It's a competitive process, but we place them into corporates at second year stage on a 2-year contract. They have 2 years of working in the corporate environment, so exposing themselves to commercials, exposing them to business activity, and then by the time they graduate in 2 years' time, they've got all of that experience, as opposed to where in East London we saw a lot of students working, but a lot of the time it was in retail or it was in hospitality. And we know that, when you get into a job and you presenting yourself on a CV and you've got all of the Russell Group contenders with, you know, their internships and their work experiences from corporate companies. We just knew that, you know, we needed to do something, and Student Associates was the answer to that. And that's now 6 years in the making. And every single candidate and delegate that's gone on to that programme has been offered a permanent job in that
That's
corporate.
incredible.
Other than last year, where only 1 out of 6 wasn't. Really pleased to say that we had a meeting with them yesterday, and whilst it's been on pause for the last 2 years, the appetite for it, and we're going to be relaunching next year, hopefully with around 30 students.
Amazing. We'd love to support that in any way we can, Caz. I could sit and talk to you all day. So if you could all go home, that'd be great. But we are going to run out of time. So before I just open the floor to a couple of questions, I always love to hear your predictions. So what's London Work's ultimate goal? What, if you could sort of sum up, what would be that change that you'd like to see?
So, I mean, you know, we're a diversity recruitment agency, and that's for a reason. You know, we're responding to what's required. What I'd like to see is there not to be that requirement. And ELBA, we have 3 programs for young black men. I'd like to see when there doesn't have to be a program for young black men anymore, because everyone is recognising the immense talent that lies within that demographic. And they too go on to demonstrate and prove that when they get into organisations like Markel, for example. So for me, that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see us just all, you know, living together, being happy, treating people as we all want to be treated, because I'm sure that's what all of our parents taught us. So why should it change in the workplace? So for me, that's what I'd like to see in terms of change. And I suppose, you know, ELBA has been, you know, banging on about the same thing for 32 years, and are, you know, renowned in the charity sector to do that. So again, I think, you know, when someone from Tower Hamlets, a kid from Tower Hamlets, looks at Canary Wharf and no longer says, I'd like to work up there, and understands that they can work there, then we've done our job properly. And when they get there, that they feel a part of that organisation and they have a voice, then we know we've done our job properly.
Caz, if anybody can do that job, I have faith that you can.
Thank you.
Thank you
for your
so
confidence
much.
in
No,
us.
I am very selective in my confidence, Caz. We have time for just a couple of questions. Does anybody have a question they would like to put to Caz?
Yeah, I've got one for Caz. So I mentioned, Caz, in my sort of opening comments that, you know, the dial is shifting, it's slow. But do you feel that? Do you think there's greater momentum now, and you know, people aren't just paying lip service to this? There's some real, you know, meaningful action happening behind all of the different D&I sort of initiatives and campaigns that are going on in the financial services industry.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, we all know about the abhorrent killing of George Floyd last year, which obviously put a pronounced lens on definitely, you know, recruitment around the ethnicity piece, particularly around young black men and you know, the black community. But yeah, definitely, I think for me, it's never going to be quick enough. But yeah, for sure, I think there's a lot less talking. There's definitely more walking. I think people are far more ready for this conversation now. They're taking an inwardly look. They're recognising the changes that need to be made. They're challenging internally. And they're also embracing the talent that for a long time they overlooked.
Thank you.
Thank you, Caz. Sinoni, did I see your hand up?
Yes, I don't really know how to word my question. The work that you've been doing, it sounds amazing, by the way.
Thank you.
I was just wondering, what I find is some companies, they do well to meet their quotas and have enough diversity within their organisation. Have you ever had any challenges once somebody's placed around them feeling part of the company, about their voice being heard? Have you ever had any challenges, or do you think that these companies kind of make their people feel welcome and a part of the company? It's not just a tick box exercise.
So I think, I mean, you know, at London Works, I mean, I suppose as the leader of London Works, I run London Works. So for me, I work with organisations that have an affinity with what our mission is. And I think in the 8 years that I've worked here, I've only probably rejected, if you like, one client like that. But generally, Organisations that we work with, they want to embrace diversity. They see the benefit of that. And our candidates, I mean, we work, as Caroline said, you know, we have a great aftercare service. So we stay in contact with our beneficiaries and our candidates so that we truly understand what the journey is. Because, of course, we have meetings with organisations and companies and they can say what they like about their shiny buildings and everything else. But actually, it's the candidate experience that's important. And we take a lot of that information to continue to kind of, I suppose, build our knowledge and experience and partnerships with the organisations that we're working with. So I would say, luckily, 99.7% of the time, it's a great candidate experience and we don't have that type of negativity. And if it does happen, it's kind of nipped in the bud pretty quickly.
Yeah, you definitely take care. As always, we're running out of time. We could talk for a long time. You're staying around for a little bit longer
Absolutely.
so people can speak to you.
Yes.
Everybody, please give Caz a warm round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you very much.